Booty Butt Boy, Clockwork. By Haiku Origami. Below Mars' surface, in a secret bunker, Booty had just finished constructing a boatload of miniature black hole disks. Pocketing a final device, he turned from the workbench and bewilderment displaced him. Standing before him was what could only be described as out of this world. Diminutive, elven, and round, she held a clock-headed stave. Hands whirling speedily, she grinned, floating 6 feet off the ground. Can I help you?" Booty asked, his eyes scanning her bubble-weave dress. "Indeed you can. Actually, allow me tempori to help you." Twirling, she raised her stave, and the both of them vanished into binary code scrolling. Having left the present day behind, they arrived 4 months earlier aboard Cosmic Force's space vessel, the Aegis. Stowed away in the hangar bay, the two eavesdropped on the team's mission briefing. Peeping through the grated floor panel, Booty studied a hologram displaying a single entity: Epic, master of time. "This may be the greatest foe we've yet to face," Him warned, swiping away the image. "His motive is complete control over time. Should he have it his way, we would surely cease to exist as we do today." "You've seen this enemy before?" Xenon questioned, accessing the ship's autopilot feature. "I was but a child, though I've heard stories from before our realms were separated. My people confronted Epic and managed to incarcerate him, if only for a few millennia." "This guy sounds fundamental," Quark reasoned. "I'm guessing we can't just remove him from the equation." "I'm afraid not. To truly defeat Epic is to sever his connection to reality or simply entrap him once more." "I should have gone with Mur on the diplomatic assignment," Quark joked, his hands tinkering with his shrink ray. Parsec chuckled, patted Quark on his back, then turned to see the planet Avon appear before them. Below deck, Booty munched on a bag of chips. Licking his fingers, he offered Tempori a handful, to which she declined. Cosmic Force had left their post and were preparing themselves for battle. "Don't tell me you brought me here to do a retcon," Booty whispered. "It is imperative that you aid Cosmic Force through this ordeal. The universe cannot afford to lose them to time." Yeah, whatever." Having departed, the team came into contact with the villain, and as fate ran its course, Booty intervened. Each hero had been stilled. Epic stood ready to send them through eras when at their feet portals opened, pulling them to salvation. Observing his surroundings, Epic was curious as to what had happened. "A trivial matter, for I have already won," he stated, walking off towards a distant temple. From behind a boulder, Booty held his firing arm. Prepping himself to attack, he was stopped by Tempori, who whisked them away even further into the past. Floating on a bubble, they traversed chronology until they arrived at a frozen tundra where a man trudged the icy plain. Part man, part machine, he paused, as if he had sensed their presence. "Eden Vox?" Skip asked, shivering. "What's he got to do with anything?" "Absolutely nothing, but I couldn't have you disrupt the canon altogether." "Wait, this is right around when Sun was frozen by jellied, isn't it? You do know your stuff, don't you? Anywho, let us be on our way." With that, she raised her stave and they were off. Looking behind himself, Vox noticed residue from their displacement and was inspired. "Tomorrow awaits me," he said, vanishing in streams of light. Events would transpire how they should, though a new threat loomed, hailing from the future. In the year 2121, the universe as we know it would come to an end, giving birth to an isolated realm called sovereign space. It is here where an eternal conflict had finally come to an end. On Oasis, a single hero weathered the storm of loneliness. Finding solitude in a cavern, he worked diligently to construct a robot companion. Putting the finishing touches on his creation, he activated it. Mechanisms whirred to life, to where lenses fluttered, letting off a golden gleam. "Hello, Skip," he voiced, hovering in place. "It's nice to finally meet you face to face." "Twin, what it do, baby?" "Please call me Asterix. I see things have only gotten worse since you took me offline. Tell me, have all the heroes truly perished?" "We couldn't stop him. Not even Sun stood a chance. I got out, but it doesn't matter. He's going to destroy everything. I see, then there is only one course of action. And what's that? I must eliminate you. Skip paused. Stepping back, he lifted his artillery and aimed, but when he fired, Asterix had disappeared. In that same moment, Tempori and Booty appeared. Coming face to face, the two variants were in utter surprise. Booty studied his future self, noticing sections of his flesh had been replaced with metal. You integrated your tech with your body, he asked, tapping a panel on his shoulder. Sweet. Hands of the merchandise, bub. Booty, skip, Booty. Tempori clarified, her smile widening. Yeah, I know who he is, Tempori. Why'd you bring him here? We are here to help. Come along now before a mess can be made. Tapping her stave on the ground, the three of them were taken back to the present day, appearing in a laboratory where 6 people stood before a machine that emitted copious amounts of energy. The room shook as a man pulled a lever, then a light flashed. Corporealizing in the gateway was an imposing yet familiar figure. Desan Avaric, Booty mouthed, his hand reaching for his inventory. And his Imperial Brigade, Skip added, placing a hand on Booty's shoulder. We have to get gone fast. Not just yet, Desan said, spotting them in the corner. Gate, apprehend these intruders immediately. His molecules vibrating, the speedster pushed off his toes and ran straight for the trio. Nearing their position, he was stopped in place. The same went for the entire brigade. Waving her stave, Tempori exhaled, giggling softly. Booty took a step forward and examined each of the villains cautiously. Skip, on the other hand, scanned the area for a temporal flux. Pinpointing a pulsing signature, he followed it down a corridor where he found Asterix held in stasis. Running his fingers along the robot's husk, he shook his head. Mission complete, right? He muttered. Send me back so I can live out my destiny. I assumed there would be more interference, Tempori conceded, tapping her temple. Pondering the occurrence, she let down her guard, giving Gate the leeway he needed to break free. Zipping in, he snatched her stave and broke it over his knee. In effect, Tempori was ripped from the present, leaving Booty and Skip to deal with the Imperial Brigade. Acting on instinct, Skip shot a laser at the machine holding Asterix captive. In an instant, the robot went ballistic, targeting Gate, who slipped through a volley of energy blasts. Closing the gap between them, Gate rushed in, his fist pulled back. Swinging with all his might, he was caught in an electric field. Jolted, he slumped over, smoke rising from his corpse. What have you done? Desan boomed, fury building on his face. My Imperial Brigade dispose of these pests. With that, each member got active. The one known as Avian led the charge. Flying in, Pantheon and Zenith on her heels, she swung her axe, deflecting laser beams. Reaching Asterix, she slashed wildly, though her weapon bounced off an invisible barrier. Pantheon aided her in pounding against the force field. Zenith, however, bypassed the shield completely, dematerializing and coming to be directly in front of Asterix. A fatal mistake, as Asterix had predicted the maneuver. Releasing a cloud of hydrogen cyanide, Zenith was subdued. I'll handle this, Artisan declared, stretching his palm. From it shot a purple energy beam that tore through Asterix's shield. Spinning midair, the machine avoided collision with the beam and let off a sonic attack that caused everyone discomfort. Booty stumbled across the room, finding cover behind an appliance. Clutching his ears, he caught a glimpse of his future self standing unfazed by the assault. From the corridor, Desan pushed through the pane and let off his laser vision. Asterix responded in kind, his own laser flooding the room with residual energy. Sable, Desan called out, now while it's distracted. Reaching into his utility belt, the villain grabbed a sharp object and hurled it. Embedding itself into Asterix's side, it exploded. Pushed back, Asterix was vulnerable to Pantheon's sword. Impaled, the robot began to malfunction, his weapon systems fully active. He let off an explosion that decimated the entire laboratory. Both Booty and Skip managed to flee into portals, popping out in the middle of an ocean city. Below them, the ground tumbled as Desan Avaric came shooting out, grappling with Asterix. You have cost me dearly, machine, he shouted, pounding away at Asterix's husk. Those were good people, the best soldiers Oasis had to offer, and you took their lives. I feel no remorse, Asterix responded, reactivating his force field. I would do the same to you, however I do not have the means, meaning I will have to settle for this course of action. Scanning Desan, Asterix initiated a destabilization process, and to his own astonishment, Desan took on a ghost-like state. Unable to talk, let alone attack, he was forced to retreat. From below, Booty and Skip looked on as Asterix descended. Targets locked on Booty, he charged his cannon and fired. Without second thought, Skip jumped in front of Booty and took the brunt of the attack. Instantaneously, Skip began to disintegrate, his entire being dissolving like wet paper until he was no more. "Wait, stop," Booty yelled, grasping at air. "My delta effect was intended to erase you. Your counterpart only delayed the inevitable. Prepare to be deceased." Booty didn't hesitate. Dropping a disc, he hopped into a portal and jumped out on top of Asterix. Pressing a second disc against the robot's husk, it activated and pulled him to spit him out on the sun, where he melted into nothingness. Booty dropped to the ground, looked around at the crowd forming, then dispersed into another portal. Arriving back in the bunker on Mars, he was taken aback by the adventure. Lost in thought, he hadn't even noticed Tempori had appeared holding a new stave. "I'm sorry it had to end like that," she murmured. "If it's any consolation, your future self's predetermined destiny was far worse." "Great, so we broke the timeline anyway. Hey, do me a favor and leave me alone." "As you wish." And like that, she left him alone to sulk in the quiet of the bunker.